Tonight we travel back nearly 2,000 years to the heart of the Roman Empire. Beyond the emperors, gladiators, and famous monuments lies another story, the story of ordinary people, the bakers who rose before dawn, the merchants who filled the markets, the families who built their lives within crowded streets and bustling neighborhoods. In this journey through ancient Rome, we will explore what daily life was really like for the millions of people who called the eternal city home. From family life and food to public baths, military service, and the realities of growing old, we will discover the world that existed beyond the pages of history books. So settle in, relax, and join us as we step back in time to experience a day in the life of ancient Rome. Part 1. A Morning in Ancient Rome. 2,000 years ago, as the first light of dawn spread across the hills surrounding Rome, the greatest city in the known world slowly began to awaken. Long before merchants filled the markets, and before the noise of daily life echoed through the streets, a quiet stillness rested over the city. The air was cool. The stone roads were damp from the night. Smoke rose gently from a handful of hearths as families prepared to begin another day. Rome in the year 100 AD was unlike any other city on earth. At the height of the Roman Empire, the city was home to more than 1 million people. Vast temples towered above crowded streets. Monumental buildings displayed the wealth and power of the empire. Aqueducts carried fresh water across great distances. Roads connected Rome to lands stretching from Britain in the north to Egypt in the south. To many visitors, Rome must have seemed endless. Everyday people from across the empire arrived in the city. Merchants carried goods from distant provinces. Soldiers returned from military campaigns. Travelers, craftsmen, laborers, and slaves all contributed to the constant movement of urban life. Yet despite its immense size and influence, most Romans lived surprisingly ordinary lives. Few citizens ever met an emperor. Few attended grand political meetings. Most spent their days working, caring for their families, and trying to earn enough money to survive in a city that never seemed to rest. As the first rays of sunlight illuminated the rooftops, the city slowly came alive. Bakers were often among the earliest workers to begin their day. Throughout Rome, ovens were lit before sunrise. The smell of freshly baked bread drifted through narrow streets and alleyways. Bread was one of the most important foods in Roman society and formed the foundation of nearly every meal. Customers would soon line up outside bakeries to purchase loaves for the day ahead. Nearby, shopkeepers unlocked wooden doors and prepared their stalls. Potters arranged their wares. Blacksmiths gathered their tools. Merchants inspected goods that had arrived during the night. For many Romans, work began early and continued until sunset. The city itself was a remarkable mixture of wealth and poverty. In the most prosperous neighborhoods stood elegant houses, known as domus. These homes belonged to wealthy families and often featured private courtyards, decorative fountains, colorful mosaics, and beautiful gardens. Servants moved quietly through these residences, preparing food, cleaning rooms, and assisting their employers. Life inside these homes could be comfortable and luxurious, but only a small percentage of Rome's population enjoyed such privileges. Most citizens lived in apartment buildings called insulae. These crowded structures often rose several stories above the streets below. Families lived in small rooms with limited space and little privacy. Fires were common. Water was not always easily available. During the hot summer months, the upper floors could become unbearably warm. Yet despite these challenges, the insulae were filled with activity. Neighbors spoke through open windows. Children played in courtyards and alleyways. Families shared meals, stories, and daily concerns within their modest homes. The sounds of life echoed throughout the city. As the morning continued, the streets grew increasingly crowded. Citizens hurried toward workshops and businesses. Laborers carried supplies through the markets. Animals were led through busy roads. Water sellers, traders, and craftsmen prepared for another demanding day. The city was noisy, crowded, and often chaotic, but it was also a place of opportunity. Rome attracted people from every corner of the empire. Latin could be heard alongside Greek, Egyptian, Syrian, and countless other languages. Different cultures mixed together in the streets, markets, and public spaces of the city. For many newcomers, Rome represented the possibility of a better future. Not everyone succeeded, but many continued to arrive, hoping to build a new life in the center of the ancient world. Religion also played an important role in the daily routine of many Romans. Before beginning work, families often offered prayers to household gods known as the lares and penates. Small shrines could be found inside homes where offerings were made in exchange for protection, prosperity, and good fortune. The gods were believed to influence nearly every aspect of life: health, business, harvests, marriage, children, military success. For a Roman family, maintaining the favor of the gods was considered essential. As the sun climbed higher into the sky, Rome revealed the full scale of its greatness. Temples gleamed in the morning light. Public buildings opened their doors. Merchants filled the marketplaces. Citizens flowed through the streets in ever-growing numbers. To modernize, ancient Rome is often remembered through images of emperors, gladiators, and military conquest. Yet beneath those famous stories existed another reality: a city of bakers and builders, merchants and craftsmen, mothers and fathers, children and grandparents. Millions of ordinary people live in ordinary lives within one of the most extraordinary civilizations in human history. And as the morning sun continued its journey across the Roman sky, another day in the eternal city had only just begun. Part 2: Roman Homes and Family Life. For most Romans, life revolved around the family. While emperors, generals, and politicians often dominate history books, ordinary Romans spent most of their lives focused on their homes, children, and daily responsibilities. Family formed the foundation of Roman society. Every household was led by the paterfamilias, usually the oldest male in the family. He was responsible for managing property, finances, and important decisions. His authority was respected, but daily life often depended on cooperation between all members of the household. The type of home a Roman family lived in depended greatly on wealth. The richest citizens lived in spacious houses known as domus. These homes often contained private courtyards, decorative fountains, colorful mosaics, and carefully maintained gardens. Visitors entering such homes immediately recognized the status of the family who lived there. Servants and slaves performed many daily tasks. Meals were prepared, rooms cleaned, and household affairs managed by those working within the home. Most Romans, however, lived very differently. The majority of the population occupied apartment buildings called insulae. These crowded structures lined the streets of the city and housed thousands of families. Apartments were often small and noisy. Several family members might share a single room. Privacy was limited, and daily life unfolded in close proximity to neighbors. The lower floors were generally safer and more expensive, while poorer residents occupied the upper levels. Fires were common concerns, and access to fresh water could be inconvenient. Despite these challenges, the insulae were lively communities. Children played together in courtyards and alleyways. Neighbors exchanged news through open windows. Families helped one another during difficult times. Children held an important place in Roman households. From an early age, boys and girls were expected to learn useful skills and contribute to family life. Wealthier children often received formal education in reading, writing, mathematics, and public speaking. Poorer children usually learned practical trades from their parents. Many assisted in workshops, shops, and family businesses long before reaching adulthood. Marriage was another important part of Roman life. Families viewed marriage as both a personal and social responsibility. It helped secure financial stability and ensure the continuation of future generations. For many Romans, daily life involved a constant balance between work and family obligations. Meals had to be prepared, clothes repaired, children supervised, bills paid, business conducted. Every member of the household played a role in maintaining stability. As evening approached, families often gathered to share food and conversation after a long day of work. News was exchanged, stories were told, plans were made for the following day. These simple routines helped strengthen family bonds and created a sense of belonging within the busy and often demanding world of ancient Rome. For ordinary Romans, home was where life truly happened. And for millions of people across the empire, family remained the center of daily life. Part 3, Food Markets and Trade Food, was at the center of daily life in ancient Rome. Regardless of wealth or social status, every Roman household depended on a steady supply of food. Farmers, merchants, bakers, fishermen, and traders all played a role in feeding one of the largest cities in the ancient world. For most ordinary people, bread was the most important part of the daily diet. Made from wheat and grain, it was eaten by rich and poor alike. Throughout the city, bakeries worked from before sunrise, producing thousands of loaves every day. The smell of fresh bread often filled the streets during the morning hours. Alongside bread, Romans commonly ate olives, vegetables, beans, fruit, and cheese. Wine was also widely consumed, although it was usually diluted with water before drinking. Meat was available but not always affordable. Wealthier families enjoyed more varied meals that included fish, poultry, and expensive imported ingredients. Poorer citizens relied on simpler foods that could be purchased cheaply and prepared quickly. Much of Rome's food arrived through trade. The empire controlled vast territories, allowing goods to travel enormous distances. Grain arrived from Egypt and North Africa. Olive oil came from Spain. Wine was transported across the Mediterranean. Exotic spices and luxury products arrived from distant regions beyond the empire. This enormous trade network helped sustain the growing population of Rome. Every day, ships entered Roman ports carrying food and goods from across the known world. Once unloaded, these products made their way into markets throughout the city. The marketplace was one of the busiest places in Roman society. Merchants displayed their goods beneath awnings and stalls. Customers examined food, negotiated prices, and searched for the best deals. The sounds of conversation, bargaining, and commerce filled the air from morning until evening. Markets sold far more than food. Clothing, pottery, tools, jewelry, furniture, and household items could all be found among the crowded streets and public squares. For many Romans, visiting the market was part of their daily routine. It was not only a place of business, but also a place where people exchanged news, met friends, and learned about events taking place throughout the city. Many tradesmen spent their entire lives working in small shops and workshops. Blacksmiths produced tools and metal goods. Potters created storage jars and cooking vessels. Tailors repaired clothing. Carpenters built furniture and equipment. These skilled workers formed the backbone of the Roman economy. Behind every loaf of bread, every piece of clothing, and every household object stood countless hours of labor. As the day progressed, markets became increasingly crowded. Citizens, travelers, merchants, and laborers moved through the streets, creating a constant flow of activity. To modern observers, ancient Rome is often remembered for its armies and emperors, but the empire depended just as much on ordinary workers, traders, and farmers. Without them, the city could not function. Every meal, every product, and every shipment of goods helps support daily life in one of history's greatest civilizations. Part 4: Baths, Entertainment, and Society. After hours of work, many Romans look forward to one of the most popular parts of daily life: the public baths. Known as thermae, these enormous bathing complexes could be found throughout the city and were visited by people from nearly every social class. To modern visitors, they might seem similar to swimming pools or spas, but for Romans, the baths were much more than places to wash. They served as social centers, meeting places, and important parts of everyday life. For a small fee, citizens could enter and spend hours relaxing, exercising, bathing, and talking with friends. Many bath complexes were impressive architectural achievements. Large halls, marble floors, decorative statues, and heated rooms created an environment that combined comfort with luxury. Visitors often followed a sequence of rooms. They might begin in a warm chamber, move into a hot bath, and finish with a refreshing plunge into cold water. The experience was both practical and enjoyable. Because many ordinary homes lacked private bathing facilities, public baths helped people maintain personal hygiene while also providing opportunities to socialize. Business deals were discussed, friendships were strengthened. News spread quickly through conversations between visitors. The baths were often among the busiest locations in the city, but they were only one form of entertainment available to Romans. The people of Rome loved spectacles. Throughout the year, citizens gathered to watch athletic competitions, theatrical performances, chariot races, and public celebrations. One of the most famous entertainment venues was the Colosseum. This enormous amphitheater could hold tens of thousands of spectators. Crowds gathered to watch various forms of public entertainment that reflected the values and interests of Roman society. The excitement of these events attracted people from all walks of life. Meanwhile, theaters offered performances featuring comedy, drama, music, and storytelling. Actors entertained audiences with tales of heroes, gods, and everyday characters. For many Romans, attending public events provided a welcome escape from the demands of daily work. Entertainment helped create a sense of shared identity among citizens. People laughed together, cheered together, celebrated together. These experiences connected individuals living within one of the largest cities in the ancient world. Yet not all social life took place in grand buildings. Many Romans spent their free time simply talking with neighbors, visiting friends, or walking through public squares. The forum, marketplaces, and streets often became gathering places where conversations continued long after business had ended. In a city as crowded as Rome, human interaction was unavoidable. People lived close together, worked together, shared public spaces, and built relationships that shaped daily life. For ordinary Romans, society extended far beyond the walls of their homes. Whether at the baths, in the marketplace, or among friends in the streets, community played an important role in making life in ancient Rome both meaningful and enjoyable. Part 5: Soldiers, Empire, and Duty. At its greatest extent, the Roman Empire stretched across 3 continents. From the cold frontiers of Britain to the deserts of North Africa, Roman authority reached farther than most people could imagine. Maintaining such a vast empire required enormous resources, but above all, it required soldiers. The Roman army was one of the most disciplined and effective military forces in history. For many young men, military service offered opportunities that were difficult to find elsewhere. It provided food, shelter, regular pay, and the possibility of improving one's social status. Not every soldier came from Rome itself. Men from distant provinces often joined the army and served far from their homes. Over time, the military became one of the most diverse institutions within the empire. A Roman soldier's life was not constant warfare. In reality, much of military service involved routine tasks. Soldiers built roads, constructed bridges, maintained forts, transported supplies, guarded borders, and performed countless duties necessary to keep the empire functioning. Discipline was considered essential. Training was demanding and often repeated daily. Soldiers practiced marching long distances while carrying heavy equipment. They trained with weapons, learned formations, and prepared for situations they might encounter on campaign. The Roman army valued organization above all else. Each soldier understood his role within a larger system. Success depended not on individual heroism, but on teamwork, discipline, and obedience. Many soldiers spent years stationed far from major cities. Life on the frontier could be difficult. Conditions were often harsh, especially during winter months. Isolation from family and familiar surroundings was common. Yet military communities developed their own routines and traditions. Friendships formed between soldiers who served together for many years. Shared experiences created strong bonds and a sense of loyalty that helped maintain morale. For ordinary citizens living inside the empire, the presence of the army provided security. Roman roads remained safe for travelers. Trade routes stayed open. Borders were protected. The stability enjoyed by many communities depended upon soldiers stationed hundreds or even thousands of miles away. At the same time, military service demanded sacrifice. Long absences separated families. Campaigns carried risks. Many soldiers never returned to the places where they were born. Yet despite these hardships, the Roman army became one of the defining institutions of the ancient world. Its influence could be seen everywhere, in the roads connecting distant cities, in the forts guarding remote frontiers, and in the peace that allowed trade, business, and daily life to continue across a vast empire. For millions of Romans, soldiers represented duty, discipline, and service. They were not simply warriors. They were builders, guards, engineers, and protectors. And through their efforts, the Roman Empire remained united for centuries. Part 6: Aging, Death, and Legacy. For all the power and achievements of the Roman Empire, there was one reality that touched every citizen equally: time. No matter their wealth, status, or occupation, every Roman eventually faced the challenges of aging. Life expectancy in ancient Rome was significantly lower than it is today. Disease, accidents, poor sanitation, and limited medical knowledge made life uncertain. Many people never reached old age, and families often experienced the loss of loved ones far earlier than modern societies would consider normal. Yet those who survived childhood and early adulthood could sometimes live into their 60s, 70s, or beyond. Older Romans were often respected for their experience and wisdom. Within the family, grandparents frequently played important roles in raising children and passing down traditions. Stories, lessons, and practical knowledge were shared from one generation to the next. As people aged, their responsibilities often changed. Physical labor became more difficult. Younger family members gradually assumed greater duties. Many elderly Romans spent more time within the home, surrounded by relatives who provided support and companionship. Religion also became increasingly important later in life. Many Romans reflected on questions about fate, the gods, and what might happen after death. Rituals, offerings, and religious traditions provided comfort during uncertain times. Death was a familiar part of daily life. Funeral processions were common sights in Roman cities and towns. Families gathered to honor the deceased, celebrate their lives, and preserve their memory. The Romans believed that remembering the dead was an important responsibility. Names were recorded, monuments were built, stories were preserved. Even ordinary citizens hoped to leave behind something that would outlive them. Today, many of those individuals have been forgotten. Their names have disappeared from history. Their homes have crumbled. Their possessions have vanished. Yet their lives helped build one of the most influential civilizations the world has ever known. When people think of ancient Rome, they often remember emperors, generals, and famous monuments. But the true story of Rome belongs just as much to ordinary people. The bakers who rose before dawn, the merchants who filled the markets, the parents who raised families, the workers who built roads, homes, and cities, millions of individuals whose names were never recorded in history books. Their daily routines, struggles, hopes, and achievements formed the foundation of Roman society. And although nearly 2,000 years have passed, traces of their world still remain in roads that continue to shape modern transportation, in laws that influence future governments, in languages, architecture, and traditions that survive to this day. The Roman Empire eventually faded, its borders disappeared, its emperors were forgotten, its armies marched no more, but its legacy endured. And through the lives of ordinary people, the story of ancient Rome continues to echo across the centuries. Thank you for joining this journey into the daily life of ancient Rome. And as the sun sets over the ancient city one final time, we leave behind the streets, homes, markets, and people who once called it home. Their world may be gone, but their story remains. And so as the sun sets over the eternal city, our journey through ancient Rome comes to an end. Behind the emperors, monuments, and military victories stood millions of ordinary people whose daily lives shaped one of history's greatest civilizations. Their homes have vanished, their voices have faded, yet their influence can still be found in the world around us today. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the ancient world. Until next time, this is History After Dark. Good night.